Well, a warm welcome to you, my treasured viewers. You are viewing Transforming Lives One at a Time. I'd like to welcome you officially. Coming to you from beautiful Tobago in the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, you can feel free to check out our social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and of course, TikTok. This program is aired every Saturdays in the afternoon from 5:30. Well, on the program, we will be talking to a power couple today who has been transforming lives in their neck of the woods. They are the hosts of one of the most prominent radio talk shows in Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, I am so happy to have them guesting with me today. Eye on Dependency is a live radio talk show that was conceptualized by recovering addict Garth Sinclair, who teamed up with the communication specialist Natasha Nunez to develop the idea. Using the stories of recovery as its foundation, has covered all aspects of drug use, abuse, and treatment. The program currently airs on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on I-95.5 radio station. The goal of the program is to ensure that every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago can recognize the signs and symptoms of substance abuse and is knowledgeable about the risks associated with the disease in all forms. Over its 20-year history, Ion Dependency has sought to emphasize the clearly defined link between crime and the abuse and trafficking of drugs, alcohol, and to explore indigenous solutions to the causes of crime. Let me welcome founders of Eye on Dependency, Mr. Garth Sinclair and his lovely wife, Natasha Nunez. Welcome to Transforming Lives, One at a Time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, it's truly a pleasure having you on board today. Well, firstly, Mr. Sinclair and Natasha, this is really a full circle moment for me. I know we didn't even talk about this. The opportunity to interview you both today. You are persons that I really have great respect for in transforming the lives of individuals in the truest sense of the word. So first off, congratulations to you and your wife for your steadfastness and, of course, your commitment to the cause for over 2 decades. Thank you, sir and ma'am.
You're welcome.
Well, let's talk a bit about who is Garth Sinclair and what was your experience like as an addict and how your life was turned around.
Well, this all started growing up in a dysfunctional home. And after doing studies about why did I happen to be here and the only member of my family be here, or ending up in that position, the research shows that, growing up in dysfunctional homes sometimes paves the way for this to happen to an individual. So, and I grew up in one of them. I was the eldest, and it was back and forth fighting with my mother and father, and I made a conscious decision to, as the young people say, jump out, and I went to the military. But I went to the military with baggage, of course, low self-esteem, being one of them, and but strangely enough, my career took off really well while in the military. That was in 1982, 14th of April to be exact, and I really took to the military training because it felt different. And the thing is, I had instructors who paid attention to me and what I brought to the table, my skill and everything else. So, and that felt good. I was away from home, and I felt I belonged in that environment. So my military career really started off really well. As a youngster, I was the youngest in physical training instructor, and it's after I passed out and all of these things. And long story short, while I was trying to elevate myself now to become a commissioned officer, I was introduced to crack cocaine by a soldier who eventually, well, at the time he was introducing crack cocaine to the force. We didn't know that. I didn't know about crack cocaine. All I knew is that I was studying for exams and he told me it would keep me up at night.
Wow.
At night, but he was more crack,
Yes.
because you don't rarely get warnings when you get drugs to use. You just hear, look, take this, they will calm you down, or this will help you sleep, or this will help you stay awake. Um, and that's what I was told. And when that crack cocaine took a hold of me, it took a hold of my career as well.
Wow.
And a few of us, because back then there was no drug policy one for the force, and the force didn't know what hit it. This soldier was he was a friend and possibly a worker for one of the drug families in Arima. We call them the Lane family, and so he had a ready-made market, which was the regiment. So he would and he knew the power of that thing. So he had planned to make some money off of us, and eventually, a lot of us were discharged forthwith from the time we were found out. Um, I did some time there before I was discharged, and then I went back home to my mom and continued the motion because now I'm a trained soldier on crack, which
Yes.
is a double whammy. My mother didn't know what hit her, and it was bad. It was bad to the point where one day she threw her hands to heaven and asked God to kill her son for a priest. And so when I heard that, I decided I would leave her and would go back to Porus Bay, which I did. And of course, I had a skill. I was an aerobic instructor, but I started working in the gyms and started stealing from the gyms. I joined a band and I started stealing from the band. And then I was arrested and charged for larceny of musical equipment. And I ended up in prison, this time, real prison. And after spending 6 months, and it was while I was in prison, now mind you, before that, in between that, I tried rehab. My mother tried to get me to couple rehab. I went into rehab, but I relapsed every time.
Okay.
It's only when I ended up in prison is then the wake up call came. And because I knew I was a talented person, I'm a talented person. I had no right being in prison, but
Right.
the regiment did not really understand that substance abuse was not a moral failing, and they treated it as such.
Yes.
I ended up on the street, um, ended up in prison, and but it's while I was in prison, I got that epiphany that this was enough. So on June 11, 1991, when I was released, I decided that I had enough of crack cocaine,
Wow.
and that's how the journey started for me. There,
Well, that is wow. That is really a heart-wrenching story because just recently I was having a conversation, I think it was with a psychologist, and they were saying that it's at the early stages, at the impressionable ages, that we need to be able to inculcate certain values in our children so that they would know, do not go to drugs, do not go to alcohol as a way to be able to solve their problems and to be able to, you know, and even as you said, that person was a friend and they introduced it to you as a way that you could stay up to do your studies or stay up to concentrate more. And these are the subtle ways that drugs are being introduced to innocent persons because from your report, innocently you tried it thinking that it would assist you, not knowing that that would have been the beginning of your downfall.
yeah, yeah.
That
It was it was I wouldn't say he was a friend, he was an opportunist, but he was a forward worker. I was a private soldier. And the thing is, that's where the low self-esteem kicked in because when a senior soldier approached you, you don't want him to say, well, you're jumpy, and you don't want to you're jumpy and you're coward.
yes, you're checking out.
Yeah. So I didn't want that label. So I said, okay, I'll try it. And that grip that grabbed me, there was no turning back after that. And it it happened to a lot of sailors and soldiers at that time. So
Wow.
yeah, it was that journey. And I mean, uh, I didn't go into detail, of the amount of things that happened during that time, but
Yes.
it was when people started noticing, it was like, this is not the same young man who we anointed as one of the best instructors in the regiment.
Right.
The Defense Force, actually, I was a young PTI, but I have loved it. And um, I just, from the time I touched it, everything just, my whole personality, everything just changed. I
Everything
first
changed.
started noticing. And so, and Joe Theodore, Ralph Strong, and all of these guys back then, they didn't know anything about crack cocaine. They knew about marijuana and all of these things, but crack cocaine was not catered for, So when that came, um, what happened, what changed was a lot of um, arms and ammunition started missing, uniform, people started one by one stealing from the force. So it's then they realized that something is seriously wrong here.
Right.
And that is when they started cracking down and adopted the zero tolerance policy and left all of us out in the rain.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, let me let your wife jump in here as we start to talk about this radio program, Iron Dependency, with Garth and Natasha. I think unless you are living under a rock in Trinidad and Tobago, unless, I mean, we all have heard about Garth and Natasha, I on Dependency. So tell us about exactly how the program came about and what has kept you going for the past 20 years. 20 years is a very long time.
See, it is.
20 plus years.
Yes. Um, the program, the idea for the program actually started with our relationship, right? I was, at the time when we met, I was on air on Power 102, hosting a talk show. But this time about, social issues and stuff.
Yes.
He used to listen to us, myself and Rhonda Otley on the radio. And I suppose he became intrigued with me. He introduced themselves. We met, we talked, we started a relationship. And then when I got to know his story is when we decided, well, we both have skills that we want to transfer, myself in communications and in radio, and him his lived experience um using crack cocaine, and his determination and his vision for how he could give back to society, what he deemed as having taken from it, and to build a platform where we can educate people, as you said, letting people know the risks.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of reasons why people use drugs, but as he said, it's not a moral failing. So once people understand the risks of entering into that realm, people would be more likely not to step foot in it. So that was the foundation really of Iron Dependency, to, as we say in our profile, to make everyone aware of the risks and the harm of drug use and drug trafficking. So, and what has kept us on for this long is the fact that um human beings will look for ways to cope with life, with the traumas that they experience in life. And our role is really to be that source, the primary source of information and education, so people can not only have access to the prevention side, but also if you do fall through the cracks and happen to have an addiction, we can point you to where you can get access, treatment, and help for that issue.
If I could jump in here a bit, uh, the if I could go back to the beginning, the question, when I uh when I started the journey, when I started the climb again, I one of the things that hit me square in the face was when I came out of prison. And this before I met Natasha, I realized that just having the label of being in prison makes you unemployable.
Yes, correct.
Especially back then, from the time they had prison, they don't care what it was. if I was in there for, didn't care. It just,
Yes.
I really tried to go back out there and really settle, reintegrate. But then there's no system for that in Trinidad and Tobago and back in division and mission. So I came home frustrated almost every day. And then I decided I was going to leave Trinidad and Tobago for good because nobody understood what was going on.
Okay.
So I left and I started this traveling, and it's when I started coming back home and I started listening to radio in the evening because I sing calypso too, so I was singing in bands those days as well.
Right.
And I heard Natasha on the radio, and as she said, we met, but my traveling continued, because we started off as friends first. We just saying hello, goodbye.
Right.
Then the connection grew from there. She was telling people I stalk her, but I didn't stalk her. She, when there was just something about her listening to her on the radio. She used to rare text me off, if I can use that word. And sometimes I used to say, what's this wrong with this woman? She had a mouth on her, And that's before I found out who her mother was. And then as the relationship developed, I went across to Brooklyn. And mind you, all that time I was actually searching for what's my purpose.
Okay.
I just couldn't, but there was one thing on my mind: what happened to me and losing my military career, and so one time I was in Flatbush and walking down Flatbush one evening. I think that is when it hit me. I said, you know what, I need to go back home.
Okay.
Although I met some Trinidadians out there who encouraged me, why you going back home, stay out here, and most of them illegal in the USA, but they encouraging me to stay, you know. So I said no. I think I broke enough rules for a lifestyle. So I'm not going to disrespect the visa that I got and overstay my time and have to go and all this kind of high truck. I didn't want to live like that. So I got on a payphone and I called Natasha as I normally would do on an evening. And I said to her, I want us to start a program already. Let's start. I'll start by telling my story because I had envisioned that substance abuse was going to take off in Chicago. Starting with crack cocaine. And remember, crack cocaine was introduced to us in the 70s, and it's in the 80s on that Dolce, and where it started spreading like
Yes.
so I knew there would be more casualties, like just in my era.
Right.
It bothered me. It bothered me because I especially with the military, I felt that a lot of young soldiers going to get caught just like I did,
Yes.
and sailors and soldiers, and I need to do something. So that's when I called Natasha. I said, I'm coming home. I wanted to start a radio program.
Right.
I did the following week, and I went to Miss Joan Williams, who was Minister of Social Development and Culture or something like that.
Right. Yes.
Brand. And but the National Alcohol and Drug Abuse Prevention Program was under her. So I decided I was going to go to her to get that clearance to start this program through NADA. And she had immediately, surprisingly. And that's where we started, where we got the first check from NADA. We went on radio, and it has dominoed ever since.
Yes. So you had that passion in your heart and in your mind. You knew that you were here for a greater purpose. And because of your experience, you came to the realization, listen, I want to ensure and make that change. I want to ensure and be able to be in the position that I can help my fellow men. Because of course, as you said, I was in the 70s. And at that point, it had now started to become prevalent in Trinidad and Tobago, I guess around the Caribbean as well. So yes. I hear you, I feel you, and I hear that passion. But at this time, we're going to take our first short break, and we'll be right back. Stay with us. You're viewing Transforming Lives one at a time.
If you're wondering where to find top-tier quality tiles and products to refurbish or renovate your wall, floor, or pool, well, your worry is over. Come to D-Cell's Tile and Ceiling Center, Store Bay Local Road, opposite the Bonnecourt Primary School, Tobago, where you will find porcelain, mosaic, and ceramic tiles of the highest quality guaranteed. D-Cell's Tile and Ceiling Center also stocks thinset, grout, tile cutters, and yes, windows. Plus, a friendly smile and service that's second to none awaits you. So forget the hassle and get all the quality tiles you need right here in Tobago at D-Cell's Tile and Ceiling Center. Call us today at 460-8802, 639-8281. Opens Monday to Saturday from 9 a.m.
Do you need electrical and plumbing supplies from construction to finish? Then check out Voodoo's Enterprises Limited, Milford Road, Canaan, Tobago. Get LED bulbs and fixtures, septic tanks, water pumps, laminate flooring, press-cut power tools, and so much more. Open Monday to Saturday from 8 a.m. Call 280-2050 or 660-4970. Voodoo's Enterprises Limited. Hi, I am Dianne, host of Transforming Lives One at a Time, and I would like to introduce you to our brand new segment, Good Vibes, Good News. And this is where you have the opportunity to highlight your good news. You can send your 90 seconds video to our WhatsApp number 868-701-2099. That's 868-701-2099. Let's hear some of the good news that we never hear about. Good vibes, good news. Inspiring hope. Celebrating wins. Truly grateful. Welcome back to the program Transforming Lives One at a Time. I am speaking with Garth and Natasha, hosts of Eye on Dependency. Welcome back to you. And I want us to talk about some of your objectives. I know that you focus heavily on an overall prevention strategy as it relates to substance abuse. And of course, we would always hear that 1 ounce of prevention is always better than a pound of cure. Real talk. So share about that and some of your objectives. Anyone could take it. Anyone can take it.
As we said, the prevention aspect of drug abuse, what is called also drug demand reduction,
Yes.
and to reduce the demand for drugs. As I said earlier, there are many reasons why people use drugs. For Garth, it may be different than for somebody else, right?
Yes.
We wanted to focus on prevention because that is the first point of contact that anyone would have in terms of how do you learn about what drugs can do to you. For me, I have my experience in terms of the use of hard drugs, but my first introduction to what could befall you if you do pick up that habit was an intervention that I had at secondary school. There was a man in recovery who came to our school to give us a talk about his lived experience. And this is something that God does as well. But
Right.
as a teenager, listening to this man talk and hearing the kind of stories that he told about, what he did and what happened to him while he was using, that one experience swore me of drugs forever. After that talk, I was like, I am never
Not me.
ever. So I think that those kinds of interventions are really important. And if for some reason, if somebody listens to Eye Dependency, whether it's for the first time or the 50th time, and they hear someone's lived experience, because that is so powerful.
Yeah.
That is, to me, and using the medium of radio as well, where you can really, it's not as sensational maybe as television, but it kind of draws you in.
Yes.
As listeners, you really feel and can connect with that individual through the medium of radio. So we felt that this was the ideal pairing of
Right.
how to share information about something that is so or can be so devastating as drug abuse, in a way that people can relate to and understand. And then that will give us the to share more information about how interconnected these issues are, as they mentioned earlier, between drugs and crime, and all of the other aspects of life that
Yes.
have to engage with, that drugs can really interfere with people's growth, developments, maturity, and all of those things. So
Of course.
gun prevention is really um, central to everything that we have done over the years.
And it's
Absolutely.
very interesting, just before you come in, Mr. Gaff, it's very interesting that you said that what you experienced in that gentleman coming and having that conversation and letting you know the dangers of drugs. That's very interesting because I've always been saying that we need to have more stories like these being aired so that persons can use this as a deterrent. Because it was just couple weeks ago, I had two persons on the program, and one of them were telling me that he lost his entire family because of drug abuse, and alcohol. And he was, wow. Alcohol, they say from the time you see him, it's like, yes, this is a rum bottle man, that kind of thing. And he said he lost his family. And when he said that, I said, wow. So I think it's very, very critical for us to be able to share uh, stories like these. And I wouldn't even say stories, this is real life, as a way, as a deterrent. So the younger persons listening and viewing can know, wow, I could have a life and plan out everything so well. And then one mistake can cause me the rest of my life. Because one of the areas that he spoke about highly is the amount of times he lost time. He couldn't buy back the time. So many years were lost. I spoke to another young lady, and she was in her 50s. And she said she never had any kind of meaningful relationship. She never had any children. She never got married, nothing like that. And she was just off of it for 1 year, and she was in her 50s. And these are the stories, these are the what we need to really get out there so persons could know that playing with alcohol and playing with drugs is no jokey business. It's no jokey business at all. Yes, Mr. Simple. Yeah.
To add to what you're saying, is also not, yes, to prevent people and to be a mitigation factor, if you will, but also not to demonize or stigmatize persons who use drugs, because, and I keep saying it, there are a lot of reasons why people use or people continue to use. And also sharing the information about addiction as a disease of the brain is important to kind of switch that assumption that a lot of us make, that people, nobody is sending you to use drugs kind of attitude.
Right. Yes. Yes.
It is a disease of the brain. With certain drugs that are highly addictive, it changes the brain chemistry. So you are essentially this person who is addicted to a particular drug or activities, such as gambling,
Yes.
cannot help it. They are sick, they're ill, and they need help, which is also one of the major thrust of this program, is to not stigmatize persons who have, as it is called now, a drug use disorder.
Right.
The language is changing. I mean, we've been in this business for a while.
Yes.
Because the language is changing. So we no longer actually use the word addict. We say someone with a drug use disorder. So all of these methods of destigmatizing what is really a disease,
Yes.
is important as well.
Right. Well, that actually, because my next question was for us to talk about the stereotypes and the stigma attached to substance abuse. And of course, what are some ways that we as a society, we can really learn to make the change? We have to change our way of thinking. Because as you rightfully said, some persons would say, but I didn't send you to use drugs. I didn't send you to, not recognizing that obviously it would have been some kind of trauma, some traumatic experience that push someone over the edge that they felt that I just need some way to release. I just need some way to find some kind of comfort, some kind of peace. Mr. Sinclair, you could probably weigh in here.
Well, keep bear in mind that there are people who are predisposed, and so a couple of things. People use drugs because of curiosity, and sometimes they stressed out, and somebody say, take a drink and cool yourself, or they're having marital problems, to go by a friend offer them a drink, and that at that moment it has to be at the right time. And you use a word, you said mistake, and I tried to tell young people that taking a substance and putting it in your system is a choice. It's not really a mistake. You know, if you mistake Kool-Aid or you mistake info, that is a different story. But you know, you must know. And so what we recommend now to families, because in our research we realize that there are people who are predisposed, like their grandparents or parents use heavy alcohol, so they were alcoholics.
Yeah.
They had mental ill health, and you know that is sometimes a taboo subject in homes.
Of
So
course.
you know, so if your father wasn't sitting down, or grandfather wasn't sitting down, or grandmother wasn't sitting down, they don't want anybody to know that. So you won't tell the children either. But not knowing that they can pick up the gene. And when they take their first drink or smoke, as we have seen now, a lot of young people have been hit with psychotic episodes.
Yeah.
So but you see, the senior people in our country never had that conversation. So when we brought it to the table, it was like some people still didn't want to buy into the fact.
Yes.
You're not a workless person. You know, you just workless. And
Right.
they prefer that part than say, like with me in the military, for instance. They didn't see this, they didn't know about predisposition. That was never used in the military. Is only when we started doing research, then we realized that there's a connection. So and like for me, my low self-esteem and my attitude about getting everything right, doing everything right, I don't like to fail.
Yeah.
So even when I started using crack, and the first time I took it, it tasted really good, and then but after that I could not get back that first taste.
Yeah.
I was hell bent on getting it back. And I started chasing that first taste, which you never get.
Right.
And that is an example of how the brain is actually rewired to and for drug seeking behavior.
Yeah.
Of course.
So and that, so the with regard to the program now, we didn't just stick with cocaine alone. We extended it and let people know, even people could be addicted to coffee, it could be addicted to
Of course.
alcohol,
Gambling.
you know, even sex and all of these things. You can't get addicted to it. And once you open that door, it's really hard to walk away. You know, stop the stigma and which is still there. And some people, no matter how hard you try, you will get those people who still not be, you know, but not be sold at the idea that, you know, because people tell you, boy, just stop. Why you can't just stop? Look what.
Yes. 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 Not recognizing.
Yeah, that alone says to me that people really don't understand what happens internally and mentally when you start using these substances. You just cannot stop.
Just like a part to when we tell victims of domestic violence to just leave their abusive spouse.
Yes.
It's not that easy.
It's not that easy.
So getting into that situation and being a battered wife, so to speak, is a long process. Just as similar is the process of drug use and becoming addicted to a particular drug or activity.
Yeah.
Process. It cannot be stopped overnight. And even though you go to treatment and you are sober for any number of years,
Yeah.
you're never cured. There's no cure for this disease, unfortunately. If God were to decide to use crack cocaine now, he will erupt and destroy 50 years of sobriety and go right back down.
Of course. Well, I wanted to talk about drug treatment centers throughout the country. Do we have enough? And of course, we know that we have none in Tobago at this time, and that is desperately needed. I've been lobbying for that in Tobago. I know that that is a whole program by itself, right?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, and I will never ever, we will never ever forgive several chief secretary for their dismissive attitude. The only person who really took us seriously was Mr. Orville, and that is after we spent about 5 years calling his name, calling out the Tobago, because we saw what was going to happen. Now, when Mr. Hochoy Charles, that's how far back we started, right? When Mr. Hochoy Charles was chief sec, Gavin Cole, deceased Gavin Cole, who was a manager of the Trek at the time, no, he was doing outreach work in Tobago,
Okay.
right? We drove around, started at the Ants Nest, and I'm sure you heard about the Ants Nest.
Of course, in Scarborough. Yes.
Right. So we started there, we did our service there, then we went to several blocks in Tobago. And when we collected that, they said, this thing is going to start spreading. So they need to start doing prevention. And wow, getting prepared for it. He didn't listen. Then Mr. London, and we started several programs on our radio station, Operation Rescue Tobago, Operation Tobago this, we had that running around the clock. And then they're calling us and calling the radio station, writing letters and telling us, tell Garth and Natasha they stay out of Tobago people business.
Wow.
We need no help. And that was before I had one homeless person in Tobago. We were telling them this. This is going to spiral. It is going to no. Please pay attention to what's going to happen in Tobago.
You remember the rehab center that they were proposing in
Goodwood.
Big Good?
Right.
Okay.
The other day,
The water gets that
this
so
Goodwood residents fought against it. They don't want a rehab center here.
Yeah.
I don't really feel a rehab center is a roadblock. I don't really didn't understand. Nobody sold it to them properly.
Yeah, education, probably.
Right. And then when I would say Mr. London kind of got fed up in 2012, so he actually sent me a message and said, look, I'm coming over to Trinidad for the reading of the budget. Let's meet. So we met, and he asked his first words of that, how bad is it? And I explained to him how bad it was. Why? And then he said, okay, I'm going to do something. And about 2 months later, I saw, and Whitfield Turner sent me a clip of him cutting the ribbon for the first actual rehab center
In Tobago.
Tobago. That was Trek, the Gordy Trek.
Yes, correct.
Right. And Gavin Cole was made manager of it. Deceased Gavin Cole was made manager. Gavin, at the time, was assistant manager at Serenity Place in Point Fortin. He left that and he went across to Tobago to run it, right?
Okay.
Gavin is Tobagoan, so, that was an issue too. So they were happy to have Gavin, and Gavin started running it, and himself and Patrick Gordon, I think is his name. Patrick was his assistant, but it started doing well.
Right.
Happy to see that.
Of course.
People started checking into the center and all of that. And when Gavin Wood passed away, I believe that was what they wanted, or you were waiting on. The center was closed. Instead of, they didn't over to Patrick, they closed it.
We need to have one reopen. So it's programs like these and others that I would have interviewed other persons who share the same sentiments that it is critical, because when you have someone who has a problem here, they have to now journey to Trinidad to one of these drug centers. You come away from your family. When you think about it, you say, you know what? No, I'll just stay and fight it on my own. So again, we are calling, we need to have a drug rehab center in Tobago. We have how many do we have in Trinidad at present?
Well, you have some very reputable ones that started with New Life Ministries. They have one for female, they have one for male up at Mount St. Benedict. The female is in Palo. Then there's Serenity Place. That's one for female. Then there's Rebirth House. Rebirth House, they're still around.
All right.
Senior institution as well. And then there are two private owners. Then there's Cora. Cora would have one there, but the landmark institution that we had was shut down last year before, which was the Power Empowerment Center. No,
All right.
that one was mind blowing to us as well because it was the only state run rehabilitation center. And without rhyme or reason, they just decided just before COVID, just after COVID, because uh, and I think we let the big off, they go a little easy to it because during that time too, with COVID, um, when it was shut down, yeah, it was used as a step down facility. No,
But just take it, just hold it right there. We're gonna have to take another short break and we'll be back. We'll continue the conversation.
If you're wondering where to find top-tier quality tiles and products to refurbish or renovate your wall, floor, or pool, well, your worry is over. Come to D-Cell's Tile and Ceiling Center, Torbay Local Road, opposite the Bonnecourt Primary School, Tobago, where you will find porcelain, mosaic, and ceramic tiles of the highest quality guaranteed. D-Cell's Tile and Ceiling Center also stocks thinset, grout, tile cutters, and yes, windows. Plus, a friendly smile and service that's second to none awaits you. So forget the hassle and get all the quality tiles you need right here in Tobago at D-Cell's Tile and Ceiling Center. Call us today at 460-8802, 639-8281. Opens Monday to Saturday from 9 a.m.
Do you need electrical and plumbing supplies from construction to finish? Then check out Voodoo's Enterprises Limited, Milford Road, Canaan, Tobago. Get LED bulbs and fixtures, septic tanks, water pumps, laminate flooring, press cut power tools, and so much more. Open Monday to Saturday from 8 a.m. Call 280-2050 or 660-4970. Voodoo's Enterprises Limited. Welcome back to the program. We are speaking to Garth and Natasha from the popular radio show Eye on Dependency. You were one that advocated very, very strongly for the establishment of drug treatment courts in Trinidad and Tobago. As a result, there are now two. Hats off to you. Tell us, what does this mean for the citizenry?
well, first of all, it started off like you said, during our travels, what we call missions.
Yeah.
Just like we discovered a prison radio station, and a film came out of it. Or we also saw there's a thing called drug treatment court, and it gave the citizen an opportunity to not go to prison, but use the court would mandate them to do certain things concerning their rehabilitation or trying to wean them off of substance abuse. So once they end up in front of a magistrate or a judge for a drug-related offense, and it happened to a young lady we met in Canada. She came from Jamaica. She was a user. She started selling and she started using. She sold drugs on her undercover cop. And she was arrested. She went before the judge. The judge said, you know what? I'm not going to send you to prison. I'm going to send you to the drug treatment court. And today, she's an administrator, right? She went through the drug treatment court because she saw an opportunity to not go to prison and do something,
Yes.
gave her that opportunity. And we said, we could take that and bring that home. So we did. And of course, we had to lobby the National Drug Council a lot. And it took us about 5 years.
And they did it.
And the judiciary for them to understand how important this is, because
Yes.
a lot of people in our prisons at the time were in for drug-related offenses. And if it can save you from getting a conviction, because we know how difficult that will be going forward, once you apply for police certificate of good character, it will shield. So they eventually relented and they started it. One in San Fernando, one in Tulapuna.
Yeah.
And actually, we got almost instantaneous result because one of the graduates of the court, who was a vagrant for like 40 years on the streets of San Fernando, he was a recidivist. And the that time when he went before, she was a magistrate then, Rosemary Hines, he was prepared to go back to prison. And and then she said, you know what, I'm not going to send you to prison this time. I will drug treatment court. And she did. And
Right.
graduated from the drug treatment court and he became a counselor. And because of that, his two daughters who and were straight from him, they found out and they got in contact with him again. And they were happy that the fact that this had happened to clean him up.
Yes, of course. So we are definitely seeing the fruits of your labor. I want us to quickly talk about another project you lobbied for until it came into fruition. And that seems to be the order of the day when it comes to Garth and Natasha. And that is the drug treatment facility at the Eastern Correctional Facility. Just speak to that quickly.
Yes, well, that again was born out of our travels and seeing how drug treatment can work in prison, in a prison setting,
Okay.
which we hadn't had before. I mean, they obviously would have self-help groups, you would have Narcotics Anonymous and stuff in prisons. But we felt that there was a need to have prisons, apart from the drug treatment court process, prisons who may have committed a violent crime and have admitted to being addicted to a substance
Right.
and that's treatment while serving their prison sentence. So that was the idea behind
Okay.
drug treatment in a separate facility, keeping
Yeah.
inmates separate from the general population so that they can focus on their rehabilitation.
So Youth Ministries got that task. The government asked them to do it. And unfortunately, when governments changed, and this is something that we have to live with in Trinidad and Tobago, this present government they took over then, it was stopped for reasons we still want to find out why. But it was working really well. So and this too would have helped someone to leave prison with a clean record. So
Right.
once they spend time in the rehab facility and they keep
Yeah.
their record would have been clean too as well. But again, we back to square one and have to re-advocate and renew the advocacy for it to start again. But yes, you can get them to understand how important it was. And
Yes, yes. Further afield now, as we begin to wrap up the program, I know the work that you do has spread throughout the globe with missions to the UK, the United States, to Canada, where you would have interviewed several incarcerated drug mules, recovering addicts, correction personnel, as well as law enforcement personnel. Just tell us a little bit about those experiences and how did you get there?
but that's a little bit to be good and ironically. Yeah, it did. We had a good relationship with the British High Commission here at the time. And
Okay.
during that time, we saw this story, and we were doing outreach in Tobago. And when we saw this story of two Tobagoans who were extradited, with the help of that time was sought here, the SAUTT version,
Right.
the National Crime Agency in the UK, they were SOCA then, Serious Organized Crime Agency. And we read this story where a young man was working for Caribbean Airlines, and I think you're familiar with the story.
Yes, yes, yes.
Right. And so we through them, we contacted the British High Commission and they supported us through the Ministry of Justice, United Kingdom. And we were really fortunate because the Ministry of Justice were really tight with getting journalists into their prisons. But we realized there was a problem of drug trafficking. So we asked for permission to interview most of our, and any of our nationals who willing to tell their story.
Okay.
As a preventative measure, we would and we were given the opportunity to do so. So we interviewed the young man first,
Okay.
and we came back and we played his interview, and then through that it dominoed into us getting to interview more people, mostly women who were there.
Right.
So we went in. We were allowed to go into 8 prisons actually.
I mean,
UK, yes, and do these interviews, and we came home and we played them just as a preventative measure. Coming
yeah.
that that's when we decided to do the film, the feature film Traffic.
Which is
Right.
story.
And that film has been making waves.
Yes, it's still to this day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
We-
yes.
That's something one of the projects we're really proud of. Um, Unfortunately, you know, we live in a country, and this sometimes where I question my like choices to come back to not to people. Look any type of work because these things go over the head of the authorities. Really, I mean, I don't know why. I don't know if solutions for our country must come from politicians alone. Yet they would say that NGOs are necessary in helping curb and fight crime and all the different things. But that's the only thing that really is a pet peeve of ours is the fact that the people who should recognize these initiatives and outcomes are tangible don't do it, you know, and that's the start part.
Understood. And that is why people like yourself and Natasha, you have to keep lobbying, you have to keep advocating, you have to keep fighting and being that voice for the voiceless. Because indeed, as I would usually say on this program, we have a serious problem. And unless we recognize that and come to the realization that we really do have a serious problem, well, then we'll continue just pretending and not addressing the white elephant in the room. I just want to pretend that it's not like this, or I just want to pretend that everything is perfect. But where has that gotten us? So we have got to come to the realization that we have a problem and we have to find meaningful solutions to be able to take care of these problems.
And
Yeah, definitely.
we are the organization that is offering the solutions.
Yes.
They may not be the easiest solutions, but they are, yeah, they're proven to work. We not
You're practical because you have to be real. You're practical. Practical. Well, I want to find out. Sorry?
Can I just listen quickly?
Yes.
I just want to let Tobago know that Tobago must come out of their denial. And I think Tobago should jump out of that denial from the time the first burglar proof went up on a home in Tobago, because Tobago didn't have that problem.
Yeah.
But now almost every home and business are burglar proof,
Of course.
a lot. And Tobago has the ideal ambience that can mirror when you get a chance, you research on Crossroads in St. Louis from St. Lucia. Antigua, sorry. And you will see where Eric Clapton chose Antigua as a separate crossroads, and it's like an all-inclusive, which is a rehab facility. And if you see the setting, if you see where it is, the layout, the beachfront, you name it, Tobago has that. And what is throwing away right now is tourism, medical tourism. Because people in Hollywood, and you will always have people in Hollywood, LA, California, and the rich folks who would rather choose rehabilitation outside of the US.
Of course.
They would look for the Caribbean islands to do it. Right now, Coach was making a ton of US. Why Tobago throwing away US? So maybe start thinking about that and start checking the amount of homeless and vagrants on your streets now in Tobago, and ask yourselves what it is causing this and why we have been so lackadaisical.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Well, I want us to talk about what policies would you like to see put in place to create a more robust support system for our addicts as we begin to bring the curtains down.
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, a lot. I think starting with the prevention side, I think definitely on the part of the Ministry of Health, which is the ministry under which NADAP falls, needs to do much more in terms of outreach, especially to younger populations, and really putting it in their face and being front and center with the information that they need to know, as well with all of the others stakeholders in this drug demand reduction. Yeah, that means law enforcement, that means corrections, it means health, it means social services. Everybody really needs to get on board because drug abuse does not just touch individuals, but it correlates to a lot of different sectors.
Of course. Families and communities.
Yes. And
Absolutely,
also,
society.
yes, and also stop depending on people with degrees alone to fix the problem for you. There are people like us who know the practical upside of it. And that's another problem we have here too in Trinidad and Tobago. We rather hear from or push in front the person who studied substance abuse in a book and never really walk that walk and understand what it feels like.
Yes.
And I think we are left on the sidelines too much because of this. And I just have to sit back and watch people throw away their career and not be employed or made a part of the team.
Yeah.
Just like in rehab facilities has counselors and therapists. The counselors, most of the time, are people who have 10 years and more in recovery under their belt. So they balance the scale with the therapist when it comes to that intervention. We don't see that in government and government institutions. They tend to shy away from people who had practical experiences. When people leave in prison, there must be, if there's no vision and mission, or if I don't want to go vision and mission,
Right.
industries that I can go to and say, okay, I just came out of prison, I was on drugs, I want to turn my life around, I'm
Right.
a barber, I'm a steel carpenter, how can you help me? At that corner door for that person who wants to do well and don't want to go back.
Of course.
We don't have
course.
that.
So what I'm hearing is that we need a more comprehensive approach because no one entity can solve this problem. So we need all stakeholders to come on board. We need all, from the governmental level to the NGOs, to the man on the street, to the person who has had the experience that can be able to share their experiences and be as a deterrent. As they share their experiences, it can be as a deterrent to the other person who is probably just casually looking at drug use or casually looking at the bottle that every time you go somewhere, you have to have a drink, So, but our time, I don't want to say it's quickly approaching, our time has almost elapsed, right? We just have just about 2 minutes or so. So your closing comment, probably just to encourage someone today. And of course, we are going to have a part 2. So you're going to look out for part 2, look out for my call, because so many other questions I had that we did not get the opportunity to really delve into. So your closing comments in 30 seconds.
Skyver, be careful. A lot of addicts are born during this time. And parents need to be more vigilant because maybe on another occasion we speak about the length and the list of drugs that have been added to the danger. So just parents need to be very, very aware and on top of their game and just be safe for this carnival season because there are a lot of predators out there who use it to rape drugs and all these different things. And they're going after your children. Remember, they do successional black too.
And Natasha.
My message would just be to be safe and be informed. Being aware and being informed is the best way to protect yourself. So if it's not through iron dependency, then please find another source of credible, reliable information that can help keep you and your family safe.
Yes, of course. And just tell us how persons can get in contact with your social media handles.
Iron Dependency on YouTube or Facebook. We're also on Instagram, Iron Dependency, and just at irondependency@gmail.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And probably a phone number that persons can contact you.
Sure. 756-6337 or 337-5471.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I want to thank you, Mr. Scott Sinclair, and your lovely wife, Natasha Nunez, for being on the program today. It was truly a pleasure having you. As I said, this time was just not enough, and we're going to definitely come back for part 2. So, and I want to say, on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, thank you for your service. Thank you for your continued efforts in this critical area of treating with addicts and finding help for those affected and, of course, their families. So hats off to you. Continue doing what you're doing. You are impacting lives, and you're living out the name of this program, transforming lives one at a time. So all the best to you and I on Dependency, and we will definitely link for part 2. Well, viewers, this is how we bring the curtains down on this program. I tell you, a very, very interesting program. And of course, we're going to have to do part 2. And who knows, maybe part 3. There's so much information to glean from Garth and Natasha as they continue to impact lives, as they continue to transform lives one at a time. As usual, I leave you with the definition of transformation, which is an internal shift that brings us into alignment with our fullest potential. Hey, we've got this. See you next time.